By Tanner Kern, who does amazing work over at DraftKings. And I know you're taking a look at some NFL passing futures, some player props here. And before we dive in, how do you take a look at a lot of these player props? Because I do think that in a market like this, the under is your best friend because these are obviously based on the entirety of the season. And I do think that something that is a little bit underrated is that bookmakers, they are going to shade down these numbers a little bit rather than based on just if they play a full 17 games. Injury is taken into account a little bit, but I don't think that it's taken into account quite enough in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can look at unders, you can look at overs. I really look at the whole team around the quarterbacks, right? So, for a specific quarterback that might have an injury problem, if they have a good team around them and they're getting better and better, I might lean towards an over there. So it's really a case by case basis, but I start from the inside out. I look at the offensive line first. Do they have time in the pocket? Do they have time to step up in the pocket? And then what are the weapons that they're working with? And then also defensively, what kind of defense are you working with as well? If you have a defense that gives up a lot of points, you might want to lean towards an over for a quarterback's passing props because they're going to have to throw the ball to win the game, right? So there's a lot of factors that go into these season-long future props, and that's why I love them. There's a lot more research that goes into it, and it makes it fun to look at.
Yep, and I know that a guy that you're looking to ascend is Trevor Lawrence, and we saw Trevor Lawrence really be able to have a rock-solid year for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and these are obviously going to vary a little bit from book to book, but right now with Trevor Lawrence, finding him in the neighborhood of about 3,500 or so yards, actually 3,975 is the approximate number here. But how do you view his player prop? Because obviously it's a little bit of a lofty one, but I do think that also with Trevor Lawrence, he's going to benefit from the fact that this AFC South might be the worst division in all of football.
Yeah, I fully expect the Jaguars to run through the AFC South. But when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, the growth that he made from year 1 to year 2 and now looking into year 3, it's been amazing. And he has a lot of talent around him. You get Calvin Ridley back. You have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. And you have a really good offensive line, too. Even in Trevor Lawrence's rookie season, his offensive line was really good. They were a top 10 unit. They were able to protect him consistently. And we saw what he was able to do last season. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more this season too. Here's another thing you should look at. Opponents, they're going to face teams like the Bills, like the Bengals, teams that like to air it out down the field. And that's going to force the Jaguars to get into a pass first kind of situation because to keep pace with the Bills and the Bengals, you need to throw the ball to win. So I think with the talent around Trevor Lawrence, the offensive line, the hype around the Jaguars and the schedule they're playing, it's really a no-brainer here to take the over on arguably the greatest quarterback prospect that we've ever seen in the, at least in the past decade or so.
Yeah, probably the best one I've seen ever since Andrew Luck. And, well, I don't think he's going to walk away from the game as quickly as Andrew Luck did as well, because who knows what would have happened on that front. And the reason why I was bringing up 3,500 is because that's the number that you got on Lamar Jackson. And this has went up since you bet it. This is up to 3,625 yards. And for Lamar Jackson, for one, as we both know, he's a little bit more of a running quarterback. He can certainly throw from the pocket, but he's got a little bit more of a well-rounded game than that. And for two, I just don't know if he's going to be staying healthy enough to be able to cash this prop. I personally like the under, and I think that you echo my sentiments.
Yeah, take the under here. I mean, first off, let's look at injuries. He has not played in over 15 games, or has not started over 15 games in his entire career. In each of the past 2 seasons, he's only played in 12 games. I don't know about you, Greg, but I lost a lot of respect for Lamar last season. I know he was trying to get paid, and I know he was trying to make money, and he wanted to be healthy. But you have a team that has a chance to go on and make a deep run in the playoffs, and you're not fighting to get back out there. And that just didn't sit well with me. That kind of showed me the character that's there. And I don't care if he gets paid. That mentality, I think, is going to switch over and carry over this year, even after getting the contract. Like, if Lamar's a little banged up, is he going to be on the field? And is he going to be able to fight through something? I don't know. So just off injuries alone, I would probably lean towards the under here. And then you look at it, the Ravens have a new offensive coordinator that's a pass-first guy. He wants to throw the football, and there are a lot of weapons in Baltimore. But that's not how Lamar Jackson wants to play football. He is a run-first quarterback that can also throw the football at a high level, but he wants to run. That is his main priority when he is on the field. One, leads to injuries, but two, it's just I think there's going to be some growing pains here when you look at this new offensive style. So totally going under on Lamar Jackson here.
If you get 16 to 17 games out of Lamar Jackson, there's a case to be made for the over. I'm with you. I do not think that is going to be the case, as we're being joined by Tanner Kern, who does great work at DraftKings, and we're taking a look at some season passing numbers right here on the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And we've taken a look at a few totals, but also something that DraftKings does is you're able to take a look at who's going to have the most rushing yards, passing yards, receiving yards, what have you for the season. And you've got a little bit of a take in this market. And I think that your philosophy here is don't mess with a profit.
Yeah, don't mess with the profit, right? Patrick Mahomes to lead the NFL in passing yards for plus 450. It's hard not to take Mahomes just because it doesn't matter who he is throwing the football to. He is going to rack up yardage. First of all, he has one of the most unguardable tight ends in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. So if he can find Travis Kelce consistently, that racks up the yards. And then the Chiefs love to throw the football. They have a great offensive line. Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith in the interior, allowing him to step up in the pocket. He can scramble to make extra plays. That allows guys to get open down the field like Travis Kelce. And just the bottom line is, second here is Joe Burrow, who's number 2 in the market. I still like Mahomes. He threw for 5,250 passing yards last season. It is plus 450, where Burrow's plus 700. So, you're going with the favorite here, but Mahomes is a heavy favorite for a reason. He's most likely going to lead the league in passing yards just based on what we've seen from him year after year in the NFL.
And this is a guy that is in a pass-first offense as well that I think might have a little bit of value in this market as well. Dak Prescott, I know that you were able to get him just below 4,000 passing yards. Right now we're seeing his number at DraftKings at over 4,050. And out of all the guys on this market, there's 2 guys I would really entertain an over on. I would still have a tough time getting there just due to health, but it's Dak Prescott and probably Geno Smith, who's below 4,000. And that Seattle Seahawks team, I recognize that they're going to be getting back some running backs, but they're going to be looking to air it out. But take me through Dak Prescott and how you view this, because I recognize that Kellen Moore being on the fold might cause them to run the ball a little bit more. But as we know in Dallas, things are bigger there, and typically the passing yards are as well.
Yeah, and you don't have Ezekiel Elliott. You have Pollard right now, so that two-headed monster isn't necessarily intact anymore. And that was a big reason why we saw them run the ball. They also had a much more physical offensive line than they do now. Don't get me wrong, they still have a top 5 offensive line unit, but this is a bunch of guys that like to protect the quarterback a little more. It's some guys that have been getting older, right? You're not gonna see that road grading style anymore in Dallas. And Dak Prescott's in a prove-it year. He needs to step up this season. If Dak doesn't have a good year, he probably won't be in Dallas much longer. The office that he has in the facility will not be there. It will belong to another quarterback. When you look at this group up front, at least, we start from the inside out. They have an all-pro guard in Zach Martin, 8-time Pro Bowler in Tyron Smith playing tackle. Both these guys are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. But with that being said, Smith's getting old. He's a nasty tackle, but he shines in pass protection. Zach Martin's great in the run game, right? But I still see him being an elite pass protector this year. And I think that's what the Cowboys are going to rely on. When you look at it, there's a ton of weapons here for Dak Prescott to work with in Dallas, right? And when you look at his passing prop, it said 3,950.5. Prescott's going to throw his picks. We know that, but their offensive style also leads to more yards because he's taking a lot of shots down the field. So I like the bounce back from Dak. I like him to be locked in this season. He has weapons. He has a strong offensive line that can protect him. It makes sense to go over on this low total.
And then when it comes to this one, it's been bouncing around 3,600 and 3,750. It's Jalen Hurts, as we know. Big breakout year last year. Do you think that he's able to duplicate it and just flat out stay out there on the field long enough to be able to catch this one over?
Yeah, 100%. When we look at Jalen Hurts, he threw for 3,700 yards last season. He's improving as a pocket passer year by year, and I think we're going to see a huge step forward this year. He wants to run the football, but Jalen Hurts is more than comfortable sitting in the pocket and picking teams apart, especially in play action where he can get outside the pocket, and work with his feet a little bit too. And that also makes defenses weary because they got to defend his legs as well. When you look at it, you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you've got guys that can catch the football down the field. They have a really good offensive line. Lane Johnson's a great pass protector. Jason Kelsey's very athletic. So you got a guy that can protect him on the outside and a unit inside where he can step up. You got Jordan Mailata playing left tackle for him. He doesn't have a lot to worry about on the blind side. And when you look at the weapons here, it just makes sense to go over. So I think Jalen Hurts gotten better and better every season. Like him to keep getting better this year and sail over this 3,600-yard mark.
And Tanner, you always do an amazing job, but you get better and better every single time as well. You do tremendous work over at DraftKings, taking a look at everything, baseball, football, basketball, you name it, you do it, and always appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Greg, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Tanner Kern does absolutely tremendous work over at DraftKings, and just